Every season has its peaks and valleys, both literally and figuratively. And when you sign yourself up for a fall filled with public land do-it-yourself hunts as we do, it's a recipe for a healthy serving of humility. This season was different, though. We experienced far more peaks than valleys. But success didn't come easy. The valleys we did cross were deep. We found success at moments we didn't expect, and difficulties in places that normally provide opportunities. Hunting doesn't always involve killing an animal. That's the way it's always been and always will be. There's simply too much outside of a hunter's control to expect any sort of guarantee. But when success comes, it's a reason to celebrate, give thanks, and remember that true success can only be found within the journey.
Like so many of my hunts outside of Arizona, I was hunting an area that I'd never hunted before. After hours on Onyx, I was convinced this Idaho elk hunt would be fairly straightforward, so I marked some good glassing points and went to work. After 7 days, hundreds of miles on rough roads, and multiple hikes, we had not located a single elk on public land. It wasn't just unseasonably warm, it was downright hot for the middle of October. We were down to t-shirts by sunrise and running the air conditioning every time we started the truck. Some local friends with decades of experience were surprised by my bad luck. At the same time, they felt like we just needed a change in the weather and to keep hunting hard. I headed home for my niece's wedding with the weather change predicted by the time I got back. Well, I'm back. It was well timed because it was so just hot, dry before I left. We were here for a full week and we just didn't find any elk. But by process of elimination, essentially narrowed it down to a couple places where we know there just pretty much has to be elk. So we're crossing our fingers that as it cools down, which it's supposed to do this week a bunch, it actually rained just a little bit yesterday. So we're crossing our fingers that all of this is stacking up to, a change. And hopefully that changes. We see elk on public land. Well, we had such high hopes for this area. Hiked in here, we've got actually just a spectacular view from this spot right here. There's cattle spread out, which means there's water spread out. We got aspen pockets, tree pockets, open hillsides, and we haven't seen a single elk, not one. So we're gonna just bail out of here, get back out. We got a couple more glassing spots that we want to take a look at. So got to hunt them where they are, because right now I just don't think they're here.
The Western Hunter is presented by Browning, the best there is. Benchmade knives, the most advanced hunting knives ever. Easton Archery, made in USA since 1922. Option Archery, bringing target precision to hunting camp. Matthews Archery, and Western Hunter Magazine.
Well, kind of a tough day all around. The wind came in this evening, and I'm sure that kind of slowed things down for us a little bit, but we had a nice look up there. We really actually like this spot. I mean, there's actually elk sign in here. It's pretty crazy how few elk we've seen in what looks like to be tremendous elk country. But again, we only need one. Eventually it's going to happen. Our plan and what we've been doing to this point is looking for like big tracts of public land that we can hike into, that we feel like it's not getting a lot of pressure, you know, and thinking that's where the elk are going to be. It's kind of more our style. But Nate and I were talking about it. We're like, you know, we need to try something out of the box, because what we usually do isn't working. So we decided today to kind of bop around country looking at smaller pieces of chunks of public that most people wouldn't even bother to look at, just driving down main roads. Sure enough, we were on the pavement this morning. We came around a corner and we just stopped and looked, and we found a good bull. He's literally on basically like a quarter section strip of private land surrounded by public. So he goes 200 yards left, 200 yards right. He's on public land. We haven't got a great look at him, but we're pretty confident he's a good bull. It's right in the middle of the day. The heat waves are tough. Again, the problem we have right now is, again, he's on a piece of private, but we can't make an assumption that he's going to go, you know, any particular direction. Just go over there and be ready for him. We're going to have to wait and see what he does. Just going to stay here and monitor him. So we're going to put all our eggs in this basket, even though, you know, it's definitely a risk, but it's a risk we feel like we got to take. He was up feeding for, a couple hours, feeding hard. And he just laid back down. And the sun sets in about an hour and a half. So apparently it looks like, my guess is he's probably going to be laying there till dark. But we're going to know, because we're going to stay here till dark and see what he does. Well, that bull got up this evening and just fed straight away from us, right through the center of that little bit of private, and then topped over into a spot we knew we weren't going to see him again. But we still had, a good 45 minutes of daylight, so Nate and I decided to race down and take a look at a bunch of elk that we had seen this morning. They were bedded up just off of public, but we did not see a bull this morning. When we saw them, it was late in the morning. And we got there, and heck, sure enough, there's a really nice bull with him. He's broken, got a little bit broken on one side, but just a beautiful bull. I mean, absolutely beautiful bull. And best we could tell looking at onX, he was probably 200 yards onto private, but I mean, that's only 200 yards. I mean, tomorrow morning they could be squarely on public or private, or we may never see him again. But it was super cool just knowing that what we did today, we were both talking about how we felt almost a little bit lazy, because we were going to just basically be checking stuff from the vehicle, but checking stuff we knew that nobody probably else was probably really looking at, and it totally panned out, especially after yesterday, where we busted our tail in the morning to get into a spot that we were super excited about, saw no elk, had to hike out, and in the evening did the same thing, just pounded into a spot, got in there, stayed till dark, had to hike back out in the dark. We got back here tired, never saw an elk all day, and then we went from the vehicle today, for the most part, and saw a lot of elk, and elk that are really, really close to the places where we can get to them. And that first bull, had he been 200 yards left or right, just 200 yards, it would have been almost easy. You never know till it's done, but man, it just felt easy. It felt like it would be easy. So hopefully one of these bulls makes a mistake tomorrow. I'm actually super excited to have the sun come up tomorrow. Well, we didn't see that bull this morning that we saw last night. So we're gonna head back to the other spot where we saw that big group of elk last night and see if there's any chance we can see them and if there's any chance they're on public. Sure enough, we found them up here. They're on private, but we passed a truck over here that with a quad in the back, and it's just highly likely that that guy's already seen those elk and he's up here somewhere after them. But we'll keep monitoring because it's not 100% sure that that's what he did, but it looks pretty likely. Well, we spent time this morning watching that herd bull, but unfortunately some other elk moved into them and they just moved further into private. I mean, they're probably a mile deep almost. So we came back around and looked for that lone bull. Didn't see him again on the face that we saw him yesterday, so we hiked into this spot that looks into where he had walked over into. Just been glassing this in the rain here and haven't seen anything. We've seen some deer. Deer starting to rut, but anyways, we have not found him in here. It's been tough glass with this dull light today, and it has been dull all day. It rained all day. We're back in that same spot looking for that lone bull. Guess is he's probably moved on, but it's obviously a place we've seen other elk here. It's obviously a place elk like to be. On top of that, the unit north to us, the area north of us, is known for when the weather hits for elk to start migrating and moving down here. There hadn't been any weather till yesterday, and you can see it's been a dramatic shift in the last 24 to 48 hours, from dusty, dry, and warm to cold and snowy and a little bit windy. But today is beautiful. We've got sunshine. We haven't seen that in a day or so. It just feels like that day that you're just always hoping for in late October, where everything happens and everything starts to change and animals are up longer, and it just feels like we're late season elk hunting right now, whereas a couple of days ago it didn't feel like that at all.
The Western Hunter is presented by Swarovski Optic. See the unseen. Wilderness Athlete. Fuel for the rugged. Outdoorsman's Packs and Tripods. On X Hunt. Know where you stand. Chally, the world's finest optics mounting system. And Browning Ammunition. So we came over to a totally different part of the unit that hadn't been in yet, and
in the middle of the day here, just really to check it out. We've been seeing a bunch of deer, and then we wanted to change angles. We came up here, found a bear over here, and turned around and looked, and there's a bull elk bedded behind us in some timber. We know there's 2 bulls there, but we can only see the one right now. He's a 5-point. He's a good-looking 5-point. Honestly, I'm debating with myself right now, but we'd like to get a look at the other bull just to see if he's a better bull. But we might just suit up and get over there so that when he does appear, we'll be in range and we'll just make the decision game time. Just make the decision then.
This segment is presented by Benchmade Hunt, the most advanced hunting knives ever.
Well, we got to look at that other bull. Well, we got to look at his tops, and he's a good 6-point. We haven't seen everything, but we know he's a shooter. So we're probably going to head over there and just get set up, because that timber's thick enough. With the angle we're going to be at over there, we have no idea if we're going to be able to see these elk until they move out in the open. We've got a couple hours of daylight left, so hopefully that's enough to work with. Okay, we're getting closer. Those elk got up and started moving down, which is good because they're making closer to us. But it's going to be more difficult to see them possibly. So we're just going to poke out here and start looking. Hopefully they didn't go too far. With that 5 points leaving now, I feel really good. That bull's dead right there. The stalk was completely different than it looked like when we left over there. We ran into some deer that totally hamstrung us for a while, but it all worked out. They were buried in the bottom, and when that 6-point finally came around the edge of that rock just in time, because I was kind of stuck with that 5-point right out in the open. They were only 256 yards. We were just too close to try to get into a better shooting position on this open hillside. So fortunately, took a step to the right, and then finally gave me some broadside. But it feels good. Idaho's been good to me. Idaho's been good to me. After the last week of failures, this moment feels a little surreal. But this feeling is not unique. This is quite normal when hunting on public land. At no point in my time here did I ever get the feeling that this is going to be a successful hunt. At times, it felt next to impossible, but persistence is a powerful thing and plays a vital role in most public land hunts. We tried every trick we knew, but in the end, we were simply in the right place at the right time. We made a dozen decisions that day that led us to this spot, never knowing until it was over that we'd find elk here. And what an incredible spot it was. The sunset was amazing and the work was rewarding. The combination of this spectacular landscape and the challenges this hunt threw at me are what makes this moment so special. When I began this hunt, it started out like many by looking over a map of my unit. This part of the unit never caught my eye, but that's probably why no other elk hunters were here either and contributed to the bull being here at this point in the hunting season. I may have overlooked this mountainside, but tonight I will not take it for granted.